So let's continue on with our jitter radar chart, and now we're going to create our custom labels here. As you can see here, we have these labels and the value being shown nicely. So let's create the custom labels in our jitter radar chart. So far we have this, and if you haven't seen this, please watch my other video about how to create a jitter radar chart with tooltips, because these have tooltips in here. So I had a more advanced question, is how to add some custom labels on here. So there is a way with the data labels, but the data labels plugin apparently doesn't have that functionality of customizing it. So what we're going to do is we're going to create our own plugin. And this will be a bit advanced, so pay attention here. So this will be the plugins, we put in here colon, and I'm going to give this a name, the custom, or not even custom, you can just say a jitter label plugin. Copy that. And then I'm going to go in here, the data, or just between the data and the options. And we can put it in here. I'm going to say this will be the jitter label plugin block, and then you say constant this equals, and then we're going to say here ID, and the ID will be the custom jitter labels. And then in here we have to break this down in two parts. So what I want to do is, before I even do that, we have to do some tiny adjustments. First of all, you can see here these are far too large. So what I want to do here is I'm going to put in here the point radius. Let's put this back to 6 pixels. I think that should be fine. So 0.6 pixels would indicate 6 pixels from top to middle and from middle to bottom. So top to bottom is total 12. Right? The radius is from the center to one of the edges. So you have 2 times to have from top to bottom. Alright, so that's 12 pixels. So I would say 12 pixels. Is that good? Our font is usually 12 pixels. So let's make this 14 pixels. So 7 pixels. Next, what I want to do is, if I refresh, you can see here this hover effect. I think this hover effect, we could do a tiny adjustment on this. We're going to say a point hover radius, and we can make this maybe 9. That's fine. So it's big, but slightly, not too much, because as you can see here, this is becoming an issue for us. So what I want to do here is this same logic. We're going to copy and put it here up, comma, paste that in there. Oh, sorry, we can even overwrite this 15 pixels. Just remove that one. There we are. Save that, refresh. Alright, so now we have this. So what we want to do is want to have this color inside, and then we have a wrapper around it. And the wrapper will have some, well, depending on how big the text is, we will have to cut off the text. So basically, there's a term for the CSS, I forgot. But a substring, that's the JavaScript form. Alright, so what we're going to do now is, let's start to draw a few items in here. So the first thing what I want to do is, I want to say here, this will be the before datasets draw. The reason why I'm grabbing this is because I want to create a label wrapping around the entire item. And that must be before the dataset, because the dot should be on top. This is very important. The dot needs to be on top. So what I'm going to do here, chart, args, plugins, and then we're going to say here the function arrow expression, because it's a callback functionality. And then we're going to work on this. First of all, constant object destructuring, basically. If you don't know object destructuring, please watch my other video, Understanding Object Destructuring for Chart.js. It's in the description box, by the way. I'm going to put it in data, and we're going to have here the scales, and the scales here, because this is a radar scale, use the radial scale, which stands for the letter R. Alright, now we have this here. What do I want to do? So what I want to do first of all is I want to say ctx.save to save the default function. Then what I want to do is I want to draw some border radius style of label wrapping. So to do this, I'm going to start here with the very beginning by saying ctx.begin path. And the reason why I'm doing this is I want to make sure that this color effect, or whatever it is with the label wrapping, will not bleed over to any other elements here. So we're going to say this is a new element or a new shape that we're going to create, and it's independent of all, so only use these colors that we have here for this shape and nowhere else. That's what we're doing here. So then what I need to do here is I need to start to understand our coordinates. So our coordinates are basically the center what we need to know. We need to know here the center of this item. So what I'm going to do here is I'll do here console log, and we're going to use a very nice functionality for this. We're going to say here chart dot, and this is a built-in chartjs function, get data set meta, and then we say here the index number. So the index number is 0, so we get data set 0, and let's save this and then refresh. Open up developer tab. You can see here we get a lot of loops or a lot of effects because of the animation as well. Anyway, what is important for us, let's scroll down here, is we want to have our data. Click here on the data. You can see here we have 361 items here. Alright, if you don't understand why, please check out my Jitter chart video that explains you the logic, because we're just building on top of this. Then I want to get here dataset index 1. The reason why dataset index 1, because that's the one that was showing, which is this one here. And you see here that's dataset number 1, and this is 30, etc, etc. So the ones that I want to grab is here, or at least the values I want to grab is the x and y value here. So I'm going to use this and start to use that to grab it. So I'm going to say data, and then we're going to say here what exactly data. And for now, I'll just put in a hard-coded one, and then say x. So I'm going to say here now, constant x coordinate equals this value. Same we will do for the y value. So once we have the y value, the y coordinates here, we have them both, and we can start to draw the shape. Alright, so for the others, we'll just leave it as it is. Later on, we'll make sure that we loop through this correctly, but of course, that's later on. So then, what I need to do here is to start think, what exactly do we need now? We have this begin path here. Well, we want to have a color. So for now, I'm going to say here, and I guess we can already do this. Since we are in dataset or dataset index 0, I'm going to work with that one, and I'm just going to do this. And we're allowed to do this, by the way, what I'm going to do here. Let's say here, jitter color. Alright? And what this does is basically create a new object name or namespace with jitter color. We are allowed to do this because this is just an object in JavaScript. So no problem, we can do this here. So then we can just give it a color. And for now, I'll just make this blue. So it's just simple. And then what I'm going to do is here now, I'm going to say here the style, or we're going to say ctx.fill style. Let's say we're going to have here a new color. And this color will be what exactly? We can just grab here the data object. We're going to say datasets index 0 dot jitter color. So that's what we're grabbing. We're just grabbing that color. And later on we can do it for the dataset index 1 as well. So now we have this here. What I want to do now is create something very specific. And what we're going to create here is the ctx.round rectangle. What this does is basically create a bar with rounded corners. That's very nice and very easy to use. So what I'm going to do here is, first of all, we need the x coordinate, we need the y coordinate, we need the width, the height, and the radius. So I'm going to give it r, but maybe I should give it like this radius because r could refer to this. So what I'm going to do here for now, we have this x and y coordinates. We can put that in there. And let's make it simple with the width. For the width, maybe 50 pixels. And then for the height, well, what we want to do with the height, we want to match this as much as possible with this point Hoover radius. Let's say 18. Because why? Remember here radius is that only half of the circle. Twice the radius equals a full top to bottom measurement of pixels. So let's say 18. And then here, the amount of pixels, let's say 10 pixels. Let's save this. If I refresh, of course nothing happens yet. The reason why is we have not drawn yet. This here is an intention to draw. There's no command yet to draw. So what I'm going to do now is say ctx.fill to draw the item. If I save this, refresh, there you are. We are getting something here. And I get this blue. I think maybe we should make this red. Where are we? The jitter color. Red. Save. Refresh. So alright, now we're getting here somewhere, but we're not yet in the right position. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this a bit. So what I want to do here is change the coordinates a bit. How many pixels do we need to move basically here? As you can see here, what is happening, it draws exactly at the center, basically the center of the X and Y coordinate is the center of that circle. So what I need to do is I need to go up how many pixels? Well, if this is if our radius is 18, so we need to go here 18 pixels up. Oh, sorry, not 18. The radius or the full circle divide by 2. That's it. Or the radius. The radius is just a half circle. So in this case, our radius is 9. So I can say here minus 9. I'm going to make this. And if you want to make it more better, we can say here constant radius equals 9. And then we can say here minus radius, and then here radius multiplied by 2. That makes a bit more sense. And we could even get this radius based on the point radius or the point hover radius. If you want this one, we could do it even in here. So, but that's okay. So as you can see here, now what's happening is, it is here, but it's very hard to spot. So what I want to do is I want to change the color for this for now. I'll make this, let's grab this color, put that in here. But then I'll make this 0, 0, and this 100. So it's a bit brownish red. Alright, so now we're getting very close. And if I hover over it, the circle will be maximum of basically our shape. So that looks really nice. Of course, what I want to do is I want to make sure that this is solid because we want to have the text in the very center. So now we have this one here. We want to have a text in here and we want to have a text in there. And you can see here this slightly is open bigger, but that's okay. You can make the radius big, whatever you want. And what I was saying, we're going to the other one. Let's do that one just to be sure. And we're going to say here point hover radius. Alright, so just going to do like that. So we have that here, so there's no mistakes. And if we change this, we say this one will be 14 or whatever. It will always match. Alright, so there we are. Alright, so now we have this part. The next thing what we need to do is what exactly we need to have a drawing of the text. And there's two parts of the text here. We have the text here and we have the text there. But because this is before the datasets draw, we have a problem. Because if I do after, if I save this, refresh, you can see what happens. The shape is on top of the circle. Alright, so this would mean here, for the before area, we can only draw the text in this label here. So let's create that. So what we need to do here, I guess we have to make a new item. And this new item can be maybe, I'll make it very simple. Jitter value, and I'm just going to get the value of 1. I'll make it really easy, but if you want it more professional, use this code. There's a foundation in it, and try to play around with it. So just to make it simple, make the video as short as possible. Alright, next what I want to do is I want to have here maybe, what do we need here is the label text or the jitter label. And we can just say here, I'll just say this will be the red or maybe the sales. Alright, so just simple stuff here. So the sales should be shown in here. Let's see here. So we have this now. We're going to first draw our shape. Once we're done with our shape, what I want to do here is I'm going to say ctx.close path. So we have this. Now we have to make sure we have to ctx.restore as well. So all of this here to reset it back to its original shape or color. So let's see that one. Alright. Oh, what happened here? Close path. Not store, but restore. My bad. There we are. Alright. What I want to do now is that number 1 I want to show here, and I want to show eventually every one of these. So what we're going to do here is, well, we can just do it after the fill, I guess. What I want to do next is I want to change the color here. I'm going to say here ctx fill style, because this will be eventually for the font color. And I'll make this white. Just straightforward white. Next, I want to select the font size. So I'm going to say ctx.font, and the font, because this is just the label text here, doesn't need to be bold. You can make them bold if you want by just saying here bold, but I will just skip it so it will not be bold. I will just only make it 12 pixels, which is the default in chartjs. I'm going to use the font family. By default in chartjs is sans serif. So now we have this part. What I want to do now is I want to draw the text. So what I'm going to say here, ctx.fill text, and this will create here basically the text that we need and the x and y coordinates. So now we have here the x and y coordinates, although this one will not be exactly the one we'll need, because we need to do some tiny adjustments. But let's get this first in here. And then this here, because we already have here our jitter label, if I'm not mistaken, there, it's called sales. We can just copy that. So I'm going to just say here how we do that. One is the same here. It's going to grab this, put it in here, and just say a jitter label. You should now understand what I'm doing here. Alright, so if I refresh here, look at that, we get the sales showing. So this works nicely. What I want to do next is just to make sure for the text alignment, I'm going to say ctx.text align equals left. By default it is, but we need to make sure that this will be set because it will be important later on. Because if not, it might impact any other item. So now we have this, but we're not done. We need to move this more to the right. So how do we do this? Well, we have here our coordinates on the x. How many pixels do we need to go to the right? Probably we need to move 1 radius to the right. So I'm going to do plus, so it will push us a bit more to the right side here. There you are. So now we have this here, and I think it starts to look quite nice. You could push this down if you want. I think this is acceptable. So just in the center, but it's up to you if you want to push it a little bit more down. Then you could say here, maybe plus 2 pixels or plus 1 pixel to move it a little bit more down. I don't like it. I will leave it just as how it is. Of course, you might say, what about if you have text that is longer? Well, let's start to work on that one. So what if we have the following? Sales, let's say here, red sales. Save, refresh. Now you can see here, it is drawing, but because it's white at the background here, you don't spot them. So what we need to do is we need to remove a bit of it. So what I'm going to do here is just simple. We're going to grab here this label here, or this data field label, and we're going to create an if statement. And this if statement, I guess, because we're going to use this, I want to measure how many characters is this. If this is more than 5 characters, substring it. Or I don't know what's the CSS. I forgot the CSS term for it. It's to cut the text a bit. Anyway, I probably later on it will pop up. It's on the tip of my tongue. So what I'm going to do is, because we have this, I don't want to use this text too much. I'm going to just make here constant label equals this. Grab this and put it in here. But now I want to make an if statement here. And this if statement, or what we can do here is an if statement or a ternary statement or ternary operator. What you can say here is, we're going to say here, if the jitter label, or basically the label dot length, will be bigger, is bigger than 5, if this is true, in that case, what I want to do is, I want to say the label dot substring, and what we're going to do is we're just going to cut it. We cut it, but we want to show the first character all the way, and then only show the first 3 characters of this. And then what I want to do is to say plus, I want to add up triple dots as a sign like read more. Else, and let's do the else like this, so you can see that. Else, if that is not the case, what I want to do is just show the full label here. So once we have this, like that. So this is the if statement that we can probably put in here. We can cut that out, put it in here, although it looks a bit messy, to be honest. Anyway, let's see if this is really 100% correct. Hold on. Label like that. Is that it? I have a feeling like it is slightly not. Sorry, well, this is the only thing that really confuses me. Hold on. Alright, sorry, the confusion comes because of this here. Basically, we don't need this one because we're going to cut this and put that in the label immediately. So if I save this and refresh, you can see here now red triple dot. So this works, confirms it all. Nice. So now we have this here. What is next? Well, what I want to do now is I want to make sure we loop through all of these items here. So what I'm going to do now is create a loop. And this loop is a double loop basically. First of all, we're going to loop because we have 360 degrees of lines here. This is very important. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, Jitter chart, check out that video. So I'm going to say here data.datasets, and I say dot for each. And then when you have this here, I'm going to say here for every data set, well, we have to loop it anyway for every data set, so we can do that immediately. We're going to grab here the index, and then we're going to put this in here. So let's cut this out, put it in there. So as we put this in here, let's save that, refresh. Does it do anything else? Right now it doesn't, and the reason why is because we have only the data set here. So I can just put in here the index, and I think by doing that we should have already a proper response or something, or apparently not. Alright, so I cannot read the length of what exactly. Alright, so I'll just leave that. Apparently there's still something missing. Don't worry about it, we're going to work on that. So we have this one here. So I want to make sure then that we're going to loop through all of these items first, because probably, and that's probably the item, certain items are not being shown, so those are null values. So what I'm going to do here is, let's see here. We have all of this. I'm going to make here another loop because we have the data set here, and I'm going, because this one will be needed later on. But let's make another one. For, and this is a for loop, and I'm going to say here let I equals 0, and I'm going to loop through the I until it's equal to 360, and then I++ to increment it. Alright. I don't need to explain that probably. But if you're wondering why do we have 360, well, remember we have the jitter chart has 360 because of the circle. Anyway, don't understand this? Please watch my other video. Explains why we have these 360 lines here. Alright, and then I just want to clean this up. Save that. Refresh. Alright, so let's see if I can at least get this here on the I. And if that doesn't work, we probably have to fix this item here later on. So if I do this, refresh. Alright, this works. So this works nicely. Now what I want to have is, I want to have the index. If I put the index here, an index there. So we have those indexed there. Let's save that, refresh. Alright, now we're starting to get somewhere. So we have this here, but of course you can see here these are the colors that we need to add up. All of those that we have here, we need to add them now down as well. Put a comma here, put this in here. I'm going to say here, this is the blue. I'll just give it the name as blue. And the color, I'm going to grab this, put it in here. But I'll just make sure that this has a slight difference by removing all of this. And this one, let's make this 100. So it will be a darker blue or something like that. Alright, well, this still doesn't work. That's fine. You have to see on that. This should be here like solid blue as well. Refresh. There we are. Let's look at the brown color. Why is this brown color being taken? Probably because of this here. Alright, so let's put in here the index. I guess that was probably just missing and that's why it didn't work. Save that, refresh. Alright, now we're getting somewhere. We have blue here and we have red triple dots there, and if you think this should be maybe a little bit bigger, we could make this a bit more bigger by increasing the width here to 55 pixels. There you are, that looks a bit more better. Alright, so now we have this here. Now we need to put in the circle in here, and here, how can we do that one? So we're getting close to this, and what I want to do is the following. We're going to go this item here. Remember we have the before and after. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to create a new function just after this item here. I'm going to put a comma, and I'm going to put this here, but then I'm going to say here after. And after draw will do basically almost the same thing, except it will draw the text, the value in the circle afterwards. So I'm going to just grab all of these. It's all same thing here. This is just like that. There we are. And then what we're going to say here, object destructuring, all again the same stuff here. Just copy this. There we are. And then what are we going to do here? I guess we can almost copy everything what we wanted here above with some tiny modification. I'm going to grab the entire formula here, copy this. I'm going to put that in here. Then what I need is, this is fine. The jitter color, everything else has no value anymore. The reason why is we don't need this anymore, because we're not going to do anything except create some text. CTX fill, no need to give it command to draw, because we want to have only the white text. This one I want to make bold, so we're going to make the font bold. Put this in the left. I think this should be just center. And then here I'm not going to use this if statement here for the fill text, or this ternary operator. No need for it, because what I need here is just the value. So what is the value again? Let's go look at up here at our data set, jitter value. All right, remember we had the data here, data, so I'm going to say here, put that in here, data dot datasets index, index what? Index will be the dataset index, and then dot jitter value. And I guess because we have already this could be even like this. It could be shorter. That should be fine as well. So if I save this, close path, no need. Restore, save, refresh. Alright, we get an error here. Let's see if, of course, the radius is not allowed here because we didn't have a radius yet. Let's get the radius. I'm going to grab this radius and put it in here. If you're wondering, are we allowed to do it twice? Yes, because we are now in what we call a code block. And in a code block, we can use constant and one more time. So that's the item. I think we can even shorter this one. That will make it just a bit more professional. Alright, so now we're getting it, but you can see here what's going on. Our text is off. And the reason why is because we have this plus radius and we have this minus radius. We don't need that anymore. We're just going to be exactly in the center, and there you are. Now we have these blocks or labels with text. Let me just fine-tune this a little bit more, because you can see here this is just obsolete. You should keep it dry and keep it clean. There we are, there we are. I think we are done now with everything here. That looks phenomenal. Alright, so save that, refresh, there you are. So that's the most important one. The only thing, of course, is this here is not being considered as well. Although I don't think that's necessary. If it is necessary, put a comment in there and ask me for another part of this. But this is basically how to do it.